Ladies and gentlemen, listen up. We've been taught to be nice our whole lives, to smile, to avoid rocking the boat, and to keep everyone around us comfortable. But the problem with being nice is that it comes at a cost, our own cost. The truth is, every time you go along just to avoid discomfort, every time you stay silent when something doesn't feel right, you're holding yourself back. Being nice is not the same as being kind, and it's not the same as being real. So let's stop being nice and start being authentic. Authenticity isn't about being harsh or rude, it's about having the courage to stand up for what you believe in, even if it means making others uncomfortable. Being true to ourselves is how we grow, how we find our strength, and how we bring real value to others. The world doesn't need more people who play small or bend themselves into whatever shape fits others' expectations. The world needs people who stand firm, who are unafraid to speak their truth. It's time to stop being nice and start showing up as our real selves. That's how we change the world, one courageous act at a time. Prioritize showing up as who you are, not who you think people want you to be. True connections are built when we're real, not when we aim to please. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's essential. Respect yourself enough to establish clear limits and don't apologize for them. Sometimes being kind means having hard conversations and being honest when it matters, even if it feels awkward or risky. Being compassionate toward others doesn't mean sacrificing your own needs. Healthy empathy respects both people's boundaries. There's immense power in being open and genuine, even if it makes you feel vulnerable. Courage is about showing up fully, imperfections and all. Standing firm on what matters to you, even if it disrupts harmony, is crucial for personal integrity and self-respect. Nice is often about avoiding conflict or discomfort, while kindness is grounded in honesty and respect, even when it's challenging. Gaining respect means being honest and true to yourself, not just saying what others want to hear. Saying no is a form of self-respect. You have limited time and energy invested in what truly matters to you. Growth happens outside of the comfort zone. Be willing to face discomfort for the sake of growth and genuine connection. When we choose authenticity, we give up on trying to be everything for everyone, and that's a brave act. We've been taught that approval from others is the sign we're on the right path, but when we chase approval, we start to lose touch with who we are. Authenticity requires us to let go of what others think and instead trust our own values, our own voice. It's a commitment to staying true to ourselves, even if it means we might disappoint others. Being authentic isn't always easy, it takes courage. It means showing up as we are with all our imperfections and insecurities instead of the polished, agreeable version we think people want to see. And it's not about rebelling or rejecting others, it's about honoring our own beliefs and values as much as we honor theirs. Real relationships can only grow in spaces where we show up as we are, not as who we think we need to be. It's a shift from worrying, will they like me, to saying, this is me. When we embrace authenticity, we invite others to be real too. It's contagious. People are drawn to honesty, to vulnerability, to those who are grounded in who they are. We often think we're protecting ourselves by putting up a polished front, but in reality, the mask creates a barrier. When we're brave enough to be our true selves, we build stronger, deeper connections with those around us. It's risky, yes, but staying true to who we are without bending for approval is how we build a life we can be proud of. Setting boundaries is one of the most compassionate acts we can practice for ourselves and others. It can feel uncomfortable at first, as if we're pushing people away, but in reality, boundaries are what allow us to stay close to others in a healthy, sustainable way. Boundaries are not walls, they're clear lines that help us know where we end and others begin, so we don't lose ourselves in the process of caring for others. They're a way of saying, this is what I need to remain whole and present in this relationship. Boundaries protect our energy, our time, and our emotional well-being. Without them, we become drained, resentful, and overwhelmed. When we say yes to everything and everyone, we leave no space for our own needs, and that kind of overextension is unsustainable. Boundaries are a declaration that our needs and limits matter, that our worth isn't based on how much we do for others, but on who we are. They're about valuing ourselves enough to know that we don't have to please everyone or always be available. It takes courage to set and hold boundaries, especially when it disappoints people. But setting boundaries is an act of respect for ourselves and for others. By being clear about what we can and cannot do, we teach others how to interact with us in a way that honors both sides. It's not about keeping people at arm's length, it's about inviting them into relationships where respect, understanding, and mutual support are the foundation. True kindness goes beyond just keeping things pleasant. It's rooted in a deep respect for ourselves and others, which often requires honesty over ease. While it may feel natural to avoid tough conversations to spare someone's feelings, real kindness means showing up with both courage and compassion, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about honoring the truth instead of settling for a smooth, short-term peace. When we avoid honesty for the sake of niceness, we're often doing it to protect ourselves from discomfort. But that self-protection can come at the cost of genuine connection. Kindness that's grounded in respect and empathy sometimes means saying hard things or setting boundaries, even when it feels awkward. Being kind isn't about keeping people happy all the time. It's about caring enough to be real with them, to say what needs to be said in a way that builds understanding. It's letting someone know when their actions hurt us or gently challenging them when they're heading down a destructive path. These moments might feel risky, but they're also where trust and growth happen. There's a difference between kindness and avoiding conflict. Avoidance keeps things nice on the surface, but true kindness looks at what's best for the relationship and for everyone involved, even if it's momentarily uncomfortable. Choosing kindness in this way is about having the courage to lean into discomfort, knowing that honesty delivered with compassion can bring us closer to the people around us. In the end, kindness built on truth, not comfort, is what creates real, lasting connection. Empathy is one of the most powerful ways we connect with others, but it can only thrive when we respect our own boundaries. Often we confuse empathy with giving so much of ourselves that we become drained, as if to truly be there for someone, we have to carry all of their pain, taking it on as our own. But empathy doesn't mean absorbing someone's emotions to the point where we lose our own grounding. It means offering our presence, listening deeply, and allowing ourselves to understand without overstepping our limits. When we practice empathy, it's tempting to think that we need to fix, solve, or save the other person. But true empathy doesn't ask us to sacrifice our well-being or to become enmeshed in another's pain. Empathy invites us to be fully present, to listen without judgment, and to offer our understanding without losing ourselves in the process. It's about being a safe space for someone, not about losing our own. When we lose ourselves in empathy, we're no longer able to be fully there for them because we've depleted our own emotional reserves. One of the most compassionate things we can do is learn how to show empathy while respecting our own needs. This means recognizing when we need to take a step back, giving ourselves permission to recharge so that we can stay present in a healthy way. Empathy with boundaries means we can walk alongside someone in their pain without falling into it. It's an act of balance. We stay open to others, but we also keep our feet planted firmly in our own experiences and values. Staying grounded in ourselves while practicing empathy allows us to show up authentically without the risk of burning out or feeling resentful. When we give too much, we often lose the capacity to help effectively, and our empathy can become a source of overwhelm rather than connection. We may start to feel exhausted, and ironically, that exhaustion often leads us to shut down, leaving us unable to give what we wanted to in the first place. True empathy requires that we show compassion not only to others but also to ourselves. By honoring our boundaries, we honor both the people we support and our own well-being. Courage and vulnerability isn't about pretending to be fearless or charging ahead without doubts. It's about choosing to show up even when we feel exposed, even when we know there's a chance we'll be hurt or misunderstood. True vulnerability is not weakness, on the contrary. It's one of the most profound expressions of courage we can offer. It's that moment when we decide to speak honestly, even though our voice might shake when we share a piece of ourselves, even if there's no guarantee of acceptance or reciprocity. In vulnerability, we're not just risking rejection, we're risking being truly seen, and that's an act of bravery that opens the door to real connection. Often we think that to be strong means to hold it all together, to mask our struggles, and to protect ourselves from judgment. But in reality, that self-protection is isolating. It keeps us at a distance, locked in an armor that prevents others from knowing who we really are. Courage and vulnerability is about peeling back that armor and allowing ourselves to be known, even though it makes us feel exposed. This kind of bravery asks us to let go of the stories we tell ourselves about what others might think and instead trust that by sharing our truths, our fears, our struggles, our dreams, we create space for others to meet us where we are. Vulnerability invites trust and honesty, not just in our relationships with others, but in our relationship with ourselves. Showing up vulnerably doesn't mean oversharing or laying every piece of ourselves out indiscriminately. It's about being intentional, about choosing to let others see our humanity. There's immense courage in saying, this is what I feel, this is what I hope for, this is where I'm struggling. Vulnerability invites the possibility of real intimacy, the kind of connection that can only happen when we're willing to be fully present and authentic. It's a risk, yes, but it's a risk that holds the potential for genuine belonging, the kind that doesn't rely on perfection or pretense. It's easy to fear that vulnerability makes us appear weak, but it's actually what allows us to build resilience. Each time we show up and allow ourselves to be seen, even in our most vulnerable moments, we build a sense of inner strength. We learn that our worth isn't tied to others' reactions, and we grow more comfortable with who we are, imperfections and all. This courage becomes a foundation we can stand on, knowing that even if we stumble, we are enough as we are. And in being open, we invite others to be open too, creating a space where everyone feels they can be real and belong without hiding. Courage and vulnerability is the recognition that real strength comes not from hiding, but from the willingness to be seen. It's the knowledge that each step we take toward vulnerability is a step toward a more authentic, connected life, a life where we don't have to hide our struggles, where we can share our hopes and dreams, and where we allow ourselves and others to show up just as we are. It's in this brave act of vulnerability that we discover our true resilience, and we find a belonging that's rooted in acceptance, understanding, and love. Standing firm in our values, especially when it disrupts harmony, is one of the bravest things we can do. It's human nature to crave connection, to want everyone around us to feel comfortable and at ease. But when we compromise our values just to keep the peace, we start to lose something essential, our sense of integrity. Staying true to ourselves means choosing authenticity over comfort, and sometimes that choice is going to feel messy. It may cause conflict, tension, and even disappointment in others, but honoring our values is a form of self-respect that can't be measured by others' reactions. Our values are what guide us through life's toughest choices, and they're often forged through our own hard-earned experiences. They reflect who we are at our core and what truly matters to us. Compromising those values just to avoid conflict doesn't serve anyone in the long run. It leaves us feeling empty, as if we're betraying ourselves. And when we make that kind of trade-off repeatedly, it starts to erode our self-trust and self-respect. We become people pleasers rather than people with purpose. True harmony isn't achieved by bending ourselves to fit others' expectations. It's built by standing firm in our values, even when it's uncomfortable. Choosing not to compromise our values for harmony doesn't mean we're stubborn or unwilling to collaborate. It means we're courageous enough to have boundaries and speak up about what we believe is right. There's a way to stand up for our values without diminishing others. It's about speaking with respect, with empathy, and with clarity so that even if someone disagrees, they understand that our stance comes from a place of deep authenticity, not antagonism. This takes practice, and it often requires that we learn to sit with the discomfort of knowing we might be letting someone down. But letting down others is far easier than letting down ourselves. Relationships built on real understanding allow space for differences without expecting conformity. When we stand by our values, we invite others to do the same. And that honesty creates a foundation for true connection. It means we can look ourselves in the mirror each day and know we're living in alignment with who we are. This doesn't mean we never question or refine our values. It just means that we're making our choices from a place of conviction, not fear. And when we act from conviction, we attract people and experiences that resonate with our true selves, not with a version of us created just to keep the peace. And it's easy to feel like going along with the crowd is the path of least resistance, but it comes at a high cost. When we compromise our values just to avoid conflict, we lose our sense of authenticity. True strength is knowing what we stand for and having the courage to communicate it, even if it creates discomfort. We can navigate tension with grace, but we should never sacrifice what we know to be right for temporary harmony. Choosing our values over easy peace requires that we build resilience and a strong sense of self-worth, but it's a path that leads to a life of integrity, self-respect, and genuine fulfillment. Being nice and being kind may seem similar, but they come from entirely different places. Niceness is often about keeping things comfortable, going along to avoid conflict, and smoothing over rough edges to make sure everyone feels good, even if that means silencing our own truth. It's a surface-level approach that prioritizes ease over authenticity, but kindness is deeper, more intentional. Kindness is rooted in compassion and respect, which sometimes requires stepping into uncomfortable territory. Kindness means having the courage to be honest, even when it's hard, and showing up with a real desire to support others, not just to keep the peace. Niceness is often driven by a desire to be liked, to fit in, or to avoid discomfort. It can mean telling people what they want to hear rather than what they need to hear. It's saying yes when we really mean no, or agreeing with someone just to avoid tension. But when we focus on being nice, we're often making choices based on fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of not being accepted. And that fear-driven behavior might keep things smooth in the short term, but over time it builds resentment, frustration, and a sense that we're not being true to ourselves. Kindness, on the other hand, is a deeper commitment. It's not about immediate comfort or superficial harmony, it's about the long-term well-being of everyone involved. Sometimes kindness is telling a friend a difficult truth, standing firm on a boundary, or letting someone know how their actions have affected us. These moments aren't always easy, but they're necessary. True kindness respects both people's needs, not just one. It allows for honesty, even if that honesty feels uncomfortable, because it's rooted in a desire to build genuine connection and trust. Kindness says, I value you enough to be real with you. Understanding the difference between nice and kind means recognizing that real connection isn't built on keeping things pleasant, it's built on authenticity and trust. Nice is temporary and polite, it aims to keep things light. Kindness goes deeper and sometimes takes more effort. It requires that we show up with courage and compassion, even when that means risking awkwardness, disappointment, or pushback. Being kind might mean disappointing someone in the short term, but ultimately it creates relationships where people know they can count on us to be honest and supportive. It's a choice to invest in relationships with a foundation of integrity rather than just comfort. When we choose kindness over niceness, we create a life that feels more aligned with who we are. We can look back without regret, knowing that we showed up authentically with compassion and courage. It's not always easy, and it sometimes means facing difficult conversations, but in the end, kindness builds a sense of self-respect and resilience. Choosing kindness over niceness means we're no longer aiming just to be liked, we're aiming to be true. And that's where real belonging and connection start. Prioritizing respect over approval means choosing to stand firm in who we are, even if it means not everyone will like or agree with us. Approval is seductive. It feels good to be accepted, to be liked, and to get that nod of validation from others. But chasing approval often leads us away from what matters most. Approval can be fleeting, changing based on people's moods, preferences, or expectations. Respect, on the other hand, is grounded in integrity, earned by staying true to ourselves, our values, and our boundaries. Respect is what remains when we show up authentically, even when it's challenging. Seeking approval is often a form of self-protection. When we aim to be universally liked, we might hold back our opinions, soften our boundaries, or stay silent when something doesn't sit right with us. Approval tells us that if we just shape ourselves to fit others' expectations, we'll belong. But the truth is, we end up feeling disconnected from ourselves and from others because we're hiding parts of who we are. Prioritizing respect means letting go of the need to fit neatly into everyone's idea of who we should be. It's choosing to live by our values, trusting that the right people will see us and appreciate us for who we genuinely are. Respect requires courage and resilience. There will be times when standing by our values disappoints others or creates discomfort. But people who truly respect us are the ones who see our authenticity and honesty, even if they don't always agree with us. When we seek respect over approval, we are no longer at the mercy of others' opinions. Instead, we build a foundation of self-worth based on knowing that we acted with integrity. Respect isn't about always being agreeable, it's about being reliable, consistent, and true. In prioritizing respect, we create deeper, more meaningful relationships. When we are respected, people know they can trust us to be honest. They know that our yes means yes and our no means no. This trust builds connection that approval simply can't offer. Approval is often conditional, but respect grows from consistency and authenticity. When we lead with respect, we find ourselves surrounded by people who value us, not just for how we make them feel, but for who we are at our core. Living for respect instead of approval also teaches us to value ourselves. When we respect ourselves, we honor our boundaries, our values, and our needs without apology. Self-respect isn't about arrogance or pride, it's about recognizing our worth and refusing to compromise what's important to us. It's a way of saying, I know who I am and I trust that I am enough, and when we carry that sense of self-respect, we naturally draw others who value us in the same way. Choosing respect over approval is an ongoing journey. It's not always easy, and it can feel lonely at times. But over time, this choice builds a life rooted in authenticity and strength. We come to see that while approval may be satisfying in the moment, it's respect that sustains us. It's respect that reminds us of our worth, that allows us to look in the mirror and feel proud of the choices we've made, and that creates a sense of belonging based on truth, not performance. Learning to say no can be one of the most liberating choices we make, yet it often feels like one of the hardest. Many of us have been taught that saying yes is the path to connection and belonging, that being agreeable and accommodating makes us likable and dependable. We fear that saying no will let people down, create tension, or lead others to see us as selfish or uncaring. But the truth is, a life full of unfiltered yeses leaves us stretched thin, disconnected from our own needs, and often resentful. Saying no isn't about rejecting others, it's about honoring ourselves and setting boundaries that make us better, more present people in the long run. Each time we say yes to something that doesn't align with our priorities or values, we're effectively saying no to something else, often to our own needs, well-being, or goals. We only have so much energy, time, and focus to give. When we overcommit, we end up depleted, scattered, and unable to show up fully for anyone. Saying no allows us to protect our energy so we can invest it where it matters most. This isn't a selfish choice, it's an act of self-respect and ultimately respect for others too, because it means that when we do say yes, we can truly give our best. It's easy to confuse saying no with being unkind or unhelpful, but setting boundaries is actually one of the kindest things we can do because it allows us to show up in a way that is authentic and sustainable. A yes given out of obligation, fear, or guilt doesn't serve anyone well. It often leads to frustration and feelings of burnout, which can impact our relationships and our own sense of self-worth. Saying no when we need to allows us to say yes wholeheartedly to the things and people that matter most. Setting boundaries isn't about shutting people out, it's about creating space where we can be our best selves. It's a way of saying, I care about you and I also care about myself. I want to be able to give fully, but to do that, I need to protect my own time and energy. This can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if we're used to prioritizing everyone else's needs before our own. But with practice, saying no becomes a way to honor both ourselves and the people we care about, as it leads to a more honest, sustainable way of relating. Learning to say no can actually deepen our relationships. When we communicate our boundaries honestly, we build trust and understanding. People come to know they can count on us to be genuine and straightforward. And more often than not, those who truly care for us will respect our boundaries and appreciate our honesty. It's a way of inviting real connection rather than just pleasing people on the surface. Saying no is an act of courage, especially in a world that often equates busyness with success and self-sacrifice with virtue. But saying no when we need to is also an act of self-compassion. It allows us to create a life that aligns with our values, where we're not constantly trying to be everything for everyone. It's a commitment to ourselves and a reminder that our worth isn't defined by how many people we please, but by how we honor what truly matters to us. Ultimately, stopping the habit of saying yes to everything frees us to build a life that feels fulfilling and balanced. It creates room for us to grow, to nurture our own dreams, and to be there for others in a way that feels genuine and sustainable. It's not about saying no to people, it's about saying yes to ourselves, our well-being, and a life that respects our limits. In learning to say no, we're choosing authenticity, courage, and a path that lets us show up as our best selves, both for ourselves and for those around us. Embracing discomfort as a path to growth is one of the most powerful choices we can make in our lives. In a culture that often celebrates comfort, ease, and instant gratification, the idea of seeking out discomfort may feel counterintuitive or even frightening. Yet it is often in those moments of discomfort, whether they come from vulnerability, uncertainty, or difficult conversations, that we find the greatest opportunities for personal and collective growth. Discomfort is a natural part of the human experience. It's a sign that we are pushing beyond our comfort zones, challenging ourselves, and engaging with life on a deeper level. When we encounter discomfort, our instinct is often to shy away from it, to retreat back to what feels safe and familiar. But this retreat can keep us stagnant, preventing us from evolving into the people we are meant to be. Growth requires that we lean into discomfort, recognizing it not as an enemy but as a guide, nudging us toward the lessons we need to learn. Each time we face discomfort head-on, we build resilience. We learn that we are capable of more than we imagined, that we can navigate uncertainty, and that we can emerge stronger, wiser, and more authentic on the other side. Engaging with discomfort often means confronting our fears, whether they are related to failure, rejection, or change. It requires a willingness to step into the unknown and to tolerate the vulnerability that comes with it. This can manifest in various ways: having tough conversations with loved ones, taking risks in our careers, or even simply admitting when we don't know something. Each of these experiences can feel uncomfortable, yet they are vital for our growth. They allow us to uncover new strengths, challenge old beliefs, and build connections with others that are rooted in authenticity. Furthermore, embracing discomfort helps us cultivate empathy and compassion. When we allow ourselves to experience our own discomfort, we become more attuned to the struggles of others. We begin to understand that everyone grapples with challenges, fears, and uncertainties. This shared experience of discomfort can create a bond between us, fostering a deeper sense of community and connection. By acknowledging our discomfort, we learn to create safe spaces for others to express theirs, encouraging open dialogue and mutual support. It's important to recognize that discomfort doesn't always manifest as a grand event. It can come in the form of small, everyday challenges that ask us to step outside our routines. It might be the anxiety of starting a new project, the unease of expressing a different opinion in a group, or the vulnerability of sharing our true feelings with someone we care about. Each of these moments presents a choice: we can shy away from them or we can lean into them, knowing that on the other side lies growth and transformation. In the process of embracing discomfort, we learn that it is often accompanied by self-discovery. Each time we confront what makes us uneasy, we uncover deeper layers of who we are. We might find new passions, recognize limiting beliefs, or redefine our goals based on what truly resonates with us. This journey of self exploration can be both liberating and enlightening, guiding us toward a more authentic life that reflects our true selves. Ultimately, embracing discomfort as a path to growth means shifting our perspective. Rather than viewing discomfort as something to be avoided, we can begin to see it as an essential part of the growth process. It becomes a signal that we are stretching ourselves, learning, and evolving. This mindset shift empowers us to take risks, make mistakes, and learn from them, fostering a sense of resilience that carries us through life's inevitable ups and downs. In embracing discomfort, we not only grow as individuals but also create a ripple effect that encourages others to do the same. By modeling vulnerability and courage, we inspire those around us to confront their own discomfort, fostering a culture where growth is celebrated and supported. Ultimately, the path to growth is paved with moments of discomfort, and by embracing this journey, we open ourselves up to a life filled with possibility, connection, and authenticity.